I'll just have a really quick recap of important information that's in the call text already, just in order to facilitate as much and create as much time at the end of the program for your interactions. I'll just very briefly touch upon the background of the call for proposals, which is derived from the mission-driven top sector and innovation policy, from the Knowledge and Innovation Covenant. NWO has committed roughly 100 million euros per year to these scientific and especially societal challenges. There are several missions that have been defined within this area in the Knowledge and Innovation Covenant. And the one we're focusing on today is from the Knowledge and Innovation Agenda as has been set up for the agriculture, water and food sector. More specifically, looking at programming that is focused on healthy, robust soil and cultivation systems, healthy food, as well as safe and sustainable primary production. The top sectors in particular that have contributed to defining the themes of this call for proposals are the ones for horticulture and starting materials and agriculture and food. Water, not so much in this particular call for proposals. They have taken their inspiration from the, I don't quite know how to say this in English, but the houtskoolschets that has been developed for this Knowledge and Innovation Agenda. And these topics were confirmed by the Program Committee for the Knowledge and Innovation Covenant. Now, the aim of the program is therefore to develop knowledge with respect to the composition and influence of the microbiome on soil, healthy soil, or even not so healthy soil, plants, animals, and humans. And there have been several examples of research questions to be addressed, listed in the call for proposals. I've listed a few here. I won't go into detail, but if you have been reading the call text, and as you can see in the questions listed here, a lot of them require interdisciplinary collaboration in order to solve the issues at the end of the program. Now, in total for this call for proposals, 5.5 million euros is available. Each individual project that will be requested budget for can be between 750,000 and 2 million euros, and NWO contributes a maximum of 90% to each individual project, which means there is a minimum of 10% of cash or in-kind co-funding required, and 50% of that co-funding has to be delivered by private parties. Now, what is considered a private party in the context of this call for proposals, it's all explained in the call text. And an important notion is that for each individual application, at least 2 co-funders must contribute to the project. So who can apply? These are universities, the Royal Institutes and NWO institutes, and also the Universities of Applied Sciences, so HBO in Dutch. They can also participate in the identity of a co-applicant. And other type of organizations, including the TO2 Institute, can be collaborating partners or also co-funders in the projects. And now roughly the planning. So today is the matchmaking event. Deadline for pre-proposals is the 24th of March. And then the committee will assess the pre-proposals and give an indication on which applicants are invited to proceed to prepare a full proposal and who is not, obviously with some explanation. And then the deadline for full proposals is the 20th of September of this year. And if all goes according to plan, there will be a decision by the board of NWO in December on which of the applications will be awarded. I don't know if there are any questions right now. If you have, please type them in the chat. And while you do, I think the most important questions which may be present right now is whether or not your research topic would fit within the scope of the program. Those kind of questions, please, you can send directly to the KIC Microbiome email address. It would take a lot of time out of today's program to answer each individually. And if there aren't any other questions, at this moment, and I don't see me coming in, looking at my colleagues now, then we'll quickly move on to a very interesting aspect, which is the presentation by Ron Winkler on the impact plan approach, which is an integral part of the program.
Thank you, Titia. Good afternoon, everyone.
Ron is present. I don't hear him yet.
You don't? You don't hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Ron.
Okay. I was worried there for a second. Good afternoon, everyone. I was asked to tell you a little bit about the impact plan approach that NWO utilizes. This is just an introduction because the topic is quite a bit more extensive. So we do have an e-learning, and I'll show you where that is at the end of the presentation.
Ron, you're not on presentation mode. Ah, yeah, now you are.
I was coming there. I'll switch to presentation mode now. So the impact plan approach, why do we do that? Something here. NWO finds knowledge utilization very important. It's an important aspect of science these days. The kind of calls that we fund with KIC or NWA are aimed at societal impact. So we do want the knowledge generated in the project to actually achieve some sort of societal impact. And that's not very easy. It's a long iterative process. And impact is broadly defined for NWO. The cultural, economic, industrial, ecological, or social changes, so basically any kind of change in society that is partly the result of knowledge and skills generated by research, that's what we refer to as impact. But it doesn't happen by itself. If you just run a project and get really nice results that you publish, it doesn't mean it will have impact on society in the long run. So you need to do something to achieve that, to plan for it. And one of the things that's very important is interaction and coordination between researchers and potential knowledge users that significantly increase the chance of utilization of the knowledge and the chance of societal impact. And NWO tries to make tailor-made approaches to promote knowledge utilization in different phases of a project. So whether it's for the application of the project, implementation, or once the project is finished. So what is an impact plan approach? It's the approach you'll be asked to use for thematic programming calls within KIC or NWA. It's the same kind of approach. And you should see it as a method or a tool to jointly develop a strategy as a consortium that increases the chance of your research having societal impact. Once, as a group, you have a concrete picture of the intended societal impact, you can sketch a route towards impact, and it becomes clear which parties and knowledge are needed. So it also provides a basis for reflection in the design, implementation, and evaluation of your research. And it is integrated in the application form. So you should understand what the impact plan approach is, so you can fill in your application form much better. And it forms the basis for the monitoring and progress reports you'll be asked to submit every year. Are we expecting you to achieve impact? Not really, not while you work as a consortium, so not within the project, because impact is usually something on the long run. It's more like the eventual aim you want to achieve on a societal level, probably years beyond the project. It depends a bit. It depends a little bit, but usually it's years behind the project. What we do expect you to do is to create output, so new insights. As you can see here in the spheres, there's what we call a sphere of control. That's the project consortium and stakeholders. That's where the new insights are created. And that's where you start to share the knowledge with stakeholders. That knowledge is then shared with further stakeholders who actually change their behavior, who start to do things with it, maybe create a new product or something like that. And that moves on to the sphere of interest, an even wider group of stakeholders and the target groups you're aiming at. So in this case, that could be farmers, but if you're in health, that could be the patients. And that's where you will generate your societal impact. An impact plan approach has 3 different elements. Overall, you have the theory of change. And part of the theory of change is the impact pathway. That's where you look at how you're going to achieve the impact and which parties are actually necessary to achieve that impact. And overlying the whole theory of change are what we call productive interactions. What does that mean? It means all the different contexts between scientists, stakeholders, among each other, or between the 2 groups that lead to sharing and valuing knowledge. Now, impact pathway and productive interactions I won't go into now. All of that you can find extensively in the e-learning. I'll say a little bit more about what a theory of change is. It's essentially a comprehensive description and illustration of how and why a desired change is expected to happen in a particular context. And it's the missing middle between what a program does, its activities, and how these lead to the desired changes being achieved. So how do you create a theory of change? First, you identify the desired long-term changes. So what do we actually want to achieve? What's the impact we're aiming for? And then you work back from that to identify the conditions that must be in place for the goals to occur. And it does that by making assumptions explicit. And what do I mean by that? Schematically, this is a theory of change. You can see 2 different parts of it. There's a problem analysis, and then there's the impact pathway. What you do is first you clearly define a problem and do that together with the desired impact. So there should be a pair that really matches each other. Then you go from problem to causes to knowledge-related causes. What are the knowledge gaps that we need to address in order to eventually achieve the impact? And that should logically lead to the research questions and method and project activities in the project plan as you're going to describe. Now, the project will have output. That's not what we usually assume, like papers, articles, things like that, not even prototypes. It's the new insights that are generated within the project. And with those insights, things are done. So stakeholders will change their behavior. They will make prototypes. They will make new products. And those intermediate steps, what we call outcome, will lead to a societal impact. And please don't focus too much on the terminology. The whole idea behind it is that it gives you a framework to make a story. This is the problem. That's why we think this is the problem. So we're going to research this. We expect these results that will be used by people from the consortium, and that will create impact. So that's basically the story you should focus on. And of course, the scientific impact. Please don't think we don't value the science. We value it as much as the societal impact, but usually that's easier for scientists. So we are focusing now a little bit on the societal impact. So an impact plan approach is a step-by-step thought process. That's the important part. It's not a perfect recipe. It's a thought process to link the research project both logically to the problem and to the desired societal change. It's also a tool to develop a strong proposal with maximum opportunities for knowledge utilization. Going through the steps together helps us arrive at a joint picture of the objectives of the project and everyone's role in it. And that's a very important part. If you do this within a consortium, it is a bit of an investment in the beginning, but it helps to make clear what is expected of everyone. What can you contribute? What do you want to contribute? And what can you get out of it? Okay, so that was a very short introduction. There's a lot more information here. We have an e-learning or workshop, whatever you want to call it. You can find it at impact.nwo.nl. There's a Dutch and an English version of it, and that will take you through making an impact plan step by step. There's theory, and then there are the start getting to work part. So you can actually go through the theory, and at the same time with your consortium or by yourself, you can do the exercises to collect the information for your form in the end. Okay, that's it from me. If there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Ron. I think it's very helpful to get that explanation on what NWO envisions in using the impact plan approach. And speaking for myself, I think one very important thing to notice is that achieving impact within the context of your research plan is not necessarily the aim, but to think about it, to think where you want to end up with your partners and partners beyond the project. That's a very important step. There was one question put into the chat just before we switched to Ron. So I think I will answer that one first. And in the meantime, anybody who has a question on what Ron just presented, please type your question in the chat and we'll get back to you, try to get back to you in this meeting. So Jan Dijkstra has put up a question regarding whether or not it's envisions to research one particular species within the microbiome or not. Well, basically that's really one of the items of the program is to investigate the content of the microbiome. And indeed, you can look at whether one species influences the working of microbiome in any setting. I don't know if that was the background of your question, Jan, or if you want to elaborate a bit.
Well, I read that, and I read it also in the application form or website. And I was curious, talking about the microbiome, you're talking about a whole, so if you say, okay, this microbiome is changing, then the composition of the microbiome is changing. So if you have an important organism, for instance, in soil, which you would like to see what is the role of this organism, and so does this organism have an impact on the whole? Otherwise, you cannot study, you cannot say the microbiome. Then you have to look to its composition, its complexity, or so to say something sensible. So, in fact, you said, okay, what is the influence on the entire community on? But it is, in fact, that you would to see, okay, is it changing? And to see if it changes, you have to look at the composition in one or the other ways, complexity. Okay.
Yeah. That's basically so. It's moving beyond just the effect of a single organism on the whole system. Yeah. Thank you for that question. I see that Ron is already typing something in the chat about contacting with regard to questions on the impact plan approach. I don't know if there are any pressing questions right now. Otherwise, we'll swiftly move on to the next topic, which is also very important in this call for proposals, and that's the presentation on interdisciplinary collaboration by Lieke.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to tell you a bit more about interdisciplinary collaboration within the Knowledge and Innovation Covenant, which I will call in this presentation KIC. It's just a bit easier. Let me see. As Titia told you before, interdisciplinary collaboration is a requirement within this call for proposals. It is actually required within all mission calls of the KIC. Because the KIC focuses on societal challenges, the KIC develops innovations for these societal challenges. And with these innovations, societal impact can be realized as well as economic impact. But in order to make sure that these innovations land well within society, as will be the case for any microbiome innovation as well, you need to take the societal context into account. And as we have seen in the Mentimeter, we can think of legal aspects, we can think of governance, we can think of societal acceptance of innovations. It's actually about the connection between technology, people, and society. And the definition that we within the KIC use for interdisciplinary collaboration is there will always be the natural sciences involved, as well as either the humanities or social sciences, or both of them. NWO as, oh, I'm sorry, this is where you see the definition. NWO has created 3 principles for interdisciplinary collaboration. It has to be done from the outset, so that means that the research questions will be interdisciplinary as well. The domains, the natural sciences, the humanities, and the social sciences create these research questions together. The conclusions of the research have to be integrated. That does not mean that the research itself has to be integrated. The research can be done within disciplinary research lines, but the conclusions will be interdisciplinary. And the different partners bring their different expertise to the consortium. And lastly, the research has to be innovative for all researchers involved. So that means that it cannot just be a legal researcher making a new law or anything. It has to be innovative for all researchers. And furthermore, researchers in any discipline can initiate the collaboration. So it can also be someone from the humanities calling a beta scientist for collaboration. And there is no unique approach. This is actually a great opportunity to be very creative in your research. There are many methods available for interdisciplinary research. Since this call is interdisciplinary, the criteria will be 2. We will make sure to instruct the committee when assessing your proposals that the research is interdisciplinary and that they have to take this into account for all 3 criteria that you can see here on the screen: the quality of the research, the quality of the consortium, and also the impact. And lastly, to help you, we have created a discipline overview, or disciplinewire, as we like to call it in Dutch, like the kleurenwire when you start painting a wall. This is where you can see which disciplines we categorize under which domain. In the middle, you can find the sciences, which, as I said before, are always involved. And on the left and right, you see the humanities and social sciences. And one of them or both of them have to be involved in the research as well. This might give you an idea of which disciplines you can think of. And finally, we have some information and I think more importantly, inspiration for you. We have created a special page on our website. You can see the link here, mwo.nl/KIC. I'm sorry, I've made a typo there. It actually needs to be EDS or ADC in English. This includes information. It includes the discipline overview that I showed in the previous slide. And it has a lot of case studies of successful interdisciplinary research, which led to interdisciplinary innovations for these societal challenges and which have landed well within society. We have a leaflet with inspirational questions. I strongly recommend looking through this leaflet. It has per category a whole set of questions that you can think of that are interdisciplinary. And lastly, we have an animation. You can see a little screenshot over there. It's the person with the bubble coming out of his head. This will give you an overview of all the information I have just told you. And this was it for now. But if there are any, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a bit too soon with the break. Let me go back to the last slide. Yeah, there we go. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask them. I can't see the chat, but I think my colleagues will.
Well, so we don't see any questions in the chat right now. I'll give you a second to maybe type. And if not, thank you, Lieke, for that information on the interdisciplinary approach, which is a very important requirement in this call for proposals. And I think it's we will make sure to share the presentation with also the links to all that important background information with all the participants here after the meeting, so everyone can look into that information at their own leisure.